right, so I need to know, right? So because that will inform my pacing of the class today. So only one student so far is indicating that they haven't done preterite tense before. So for everybody else, this will be revision, right? Okay. Well, it's time for us to start. Our topic is, well, the topic for today will just be preterite tense, but the big topic we're doing is preterite and imperfect revision, right? And we have some examples of preterite tense here in this conversation here. So the guy said, ¿Qué hiciste ayer? So what is he saying? He's saying, what did you do yesterday? Ayer is yesterday, right? So ayer, if it happened yesterday, that means it's in the past tense, right? Now we are dealing with actions that were completed. And as a result of that, we would use preterite, right? All right. So over here, the person is responding, well, I did so many things, muchísimas cosas, right? Mamá y yo fueron al mercado. So we went to the market, right? So this is preterite tense. There should be accent on this. Compré un coche nuevo. So I bought, right? Also preterite tense. Nothing on the screen you need to write unless you want to know the question because it's a useful question to know and also to use, right? All right. Y leí 100 años de soledad por Gabriel Márquez. So I read, right? Also preterite tense. Fue incomparable. So it was incomparable, right? So all of these are examples of preterite tense in use in Spanish. Okay, so let's get into, now, since most of the class has done this before, we're instead of going to how we form it, we're going to go instead to, actually, no, I think we have to go to how we form it. But we will go to how we form it and review that first. Okay, so formally preterite, what are the endings that we use when we formally preterite? When do we use the preterite? So to go over when we use the preterite, we're going to look at words and phrases like ayer. That when we see them, we know that we have to use preterite tense in Spanish, right? In English too. The third thing we will do is look at irregular preterite, right? And finally, to wrap up class, hopefully we'll be able to distinguish between when we use preterite and when we use imperfect. But I also have a comprehension that I want us to look at with some preterite. So we might do that instead for the fourth thing, right? All right, so let's go over how we form the preterite, right? Now, it is important for me to keep saying that we did this already. So if you are still shaky on it, that means you need to sit down with your notes and memorize them, right? That means we haven't given enough time to memorizing them, which we have to do, okay? All right, so these are the endings without some accents. Let me put in the accents as we discuss this. All right, now before I write in the subjects, tell me, how do we get the stem for to form the preterite in Spanish? What do we start with? How do we get the stem? Dog is saying down here, we have to add the endings to stem. Come guys, think, how do we get the stem for the preterite tense? This is one of the easy ones. So to get the stem, we just take off the ending. So for hablar, we take off the AR. For comer, we take off the ER. For vivir, we take off the IR. And then we add these endings to the stem, right? So the yo form is E accent as the ending. So it become yo hablé. One word, right? I spoke, right? Tú hablaste. You spoke. Él, ella, usted habló. He, she, it, or you, formal, spoke, right? I don't space to write in all these subjects. So if you're confused, you can tell me. All right, nosotros hablamos, right? We spoke. Now notice it's the same. It looks the same as the present tense, but we are speaking, right? We speak is also hablamos. So it will depend on the context that you'll figure it out. Then ellos, ellas, ustedes, they, or you plural, you formal and plural, hablaron, right? Okay, ER and IR. So this should be revision for most of us, I think, right? So we're going to spend a few more minutes on this slide, and then we'll get into more practice with it, right? But everybody should have this note. Okay, so the comí, I ate, right? So this is the yo form. For the to form, comiste, you ate, right? Él, ella, usted, comió, he, she, it, you. And I don't have space. It, right? Nosotros comimos, we ate. And again, when it resembles the English, the present tense, you have to use the clues around you for context, right? And ellos, ellas, ustedes comieron, right? They ate, you formal ate. You plural and formal ate, right? Well, and also informal. We use ustedes for informal plural, right? So they / you ate, right? All right, so if this is the first time you're seeing it, you can write down the conjugations. If this is not the first time you're seeing it, well, you can, and you have the notes, you can spare your fingers. All right, and for the IR verb, it would be vivi. I lived, viviste. You lived, vivió. He, she, it, you formal lived, right? Vivimos, we lived, vivieron. They or you plural lived, right? Okay, I'm gonna pause for a minute. Okay, so let's get rid of this and let's move on to our next super cool slide. All right, so these are called trigger words or trigger phrases. And this is because when we see them, chances are we are going to have to use the preterite in a sentence, right? And we're going to be ambitious And we're going to try to make sentences with all of them. Okay, and I have given you some clues as to how to shape the sentence. So we want to make a sentence with ayer, which means yesterday. I'm going to put up 5 at a time. So people who are faster, you could work ahead, right? Anteayer, which means the day before yesterday. Anoche, last night. Una vez, once. This should be one time, not once time. Right? And then in aquel momento, at that moment, right? All right, so for the first one, which I will do with you, what does acostarse mean? Do we remember we've met it before? Yeah, to lie down. Okay, so like to put yourself into bed, right? All right. Now, what kind of verb is this? It has that say at the end. So that tells us it is a reflexive verb, right? This is just a reminder. And it also we also remember, because we've used acostar, some of us before, right? That this is stem changing O to UE, right? All right, we're using the words in brackets to make a sentence with ayer. So I've given you yo and acostarse. So I want to say yesterday I went to bed, and then finish it off with some thoughts in Spanish. I could say late, I could say early, I could say at a particular time, anything I want, right? All right, so let's do the sentence. Ayer me acosté. Oops, it's not how that is spelled. I'm going to say very late. Muy tarde. Right? I went to bed very late. Yesterday, I went to bed very late. Right? So we're trying to make a sentence with each of these words. When we make the sentence, it will use preterite tense, right? Everybody understands what we're doing? So for the second word, anteayer, I'm asking you to use again, acostarse. But this time I want you to make it agree with mi madre, my mother. Right? So tell me something about what time my mother went to bed. Or some detail about it. Right? Now this is how we're going to check to make sure we understand how to conjugate in the preterite, right? Now I will also point out, remind us with acostarse, which is stem changing, right? That the way we form the stem for the preterite is we go to the infinitive. So we take that acostar and we take off the AR. So when we put it in the preterite, the stem has not changed. The stem is still what was in the infinitive to begin with, right? Everybody sees that? So stem changing, verbs, any preterite, the stem, we take the stem from the infinitive, so the stem does not change, right? We still have to account for the reflexive pronoun. So we have to put the reflexive pronoun in the sentence, right? All right, so we're working on the second one. If you feel like you can't make a sentence, don't worry about the accent. I'll assume that you put it in, right? Just like you'll often assume I put mine in. So here's a accent over the U for the next one, right? I'll just assume you put in the accents, right? And when you write it in, obviously, when you write it in your book, you'll put in the accents. If you know how to do the accent on your computer, by all means, go ahead. But if you're using your phone or you're unfamiliar with how to put it in, no problem. All right, so you right. I was gonna say if typing a sentence seems a little too involved, you can just put the conjugated verb. Right? The goal is to make sure everybody understands how to conjugate the verbs and the preterites. And you could move ahead. We as a class are number 2, but you could go on with the others and type your answers in the chat. Guys, I never quarrel with people who submit the wrong answer. All we do is correct it in the chat. I may correct it out loud without saying the student's name if I think the class would benefit from it. Unlike other people whose names I can call, like Sir, who often I've heard, calls out people in class for answers. But I don't do that. So please don't be afraid to send your answer. It will be helpful to you, right? All right, well, let's use, okay, so we're going to the second one, the day before yesterday. All right, so anteayer. Mi madre. All right, so the pronoun she would get, because she's ella, the reflexive pronoun she would get is se, right? And the endings, e accent is an AR verb. A, aste, sorry, 1 second. I have something frozen here. Right. A, aste, O accent, right? Amos, arong, right? For the AR verb. So, mi madre would be ella. So we would say, se acostó. And then whatever you want to say about her. Did she go to bed? She went to sleep at 7 in the evening. That's a typical, I think all moms probably wish they could do that. We go to bed early, right? Yes, okay, muy temprano is a good one. So se acostó, let's put in muy temprano. So we should know this phrase very early, right? She went to bed very early. Good. Once your sentence is correct and you don't have any issues, like I give you a thumbs up or smiley face and I don't give you a correction, then you can write down your sentence as your example if you want, right? Let me pause the recording and give us a chance to work on our examples. Okay, so let's continue. I can erase the top 2 examples. Right, as a reminder, reflexive verbs, you still have to account for the reflexive pronoun based on who is doing the action. And then Stem changing verbs, we don't care because we deal with the infinitive and the stem hasn't changed in the infinitive. Right? All right, so let's get rid of this. Okay, so I'm going to write out the conjugation, and you could check the conjugation against what you have, right? Will give me a little more time to look at answers. Okay, so 2, do you have cocinaste? Because we take off the AR ending and we add ASTE for the 2 form. So you cooked anoche, last night, you cooked, right? What do I have last night? Oh, no, I had yesterday, but no, this is last night. Okay, great, right? All right, once, okay, so una vez, now remember we have to, even for ver, which is 3 letters, we're still taking off this ER as a stem, right? And adding the ending. Right? All right, so did you get nosotros vimos? All right, so una vez, nosotros vimos, and then whatever you saw. Some people have said a dog. Some people have said, wait a minute, a boat. A boat is English. Why is a boat turning up in my sentence? Un barco, right? All right, so nosotros vimos, and however you want to complete it, I'm going to put un barco, right? Also, oh, I left out una vez, right? We are putting in the subject here as we're writing it in an exercise in class, but you don't need to put in the subject, right? It's actually, it's both. So usted is shortened both ways, UD. It's also shortened with VD, right? And it's written out as usted. Same for ustedes, right? VDS as well as UDS, right? I use both because I want you to be familiar with both. Right. En aquel momento, so at that moment, usted escuchaste, escuchó. La música, la canción, the song, right? Many more. This is what we have left. I feel as though we could put one example for all of these, the next 3, right? And just do the conjugation for the verb. If your hands are getting tired, right? Okay, so la semana pasada, last week, you returned, probably home, right? You returned, you went back. So ustedes volvieron. Right? Here we have there again. El this time. So mes pasado, last month, el viste, vio, right? VIO accent. El año pasado, ellos cantar, So ellos cantaron. Right? El año pasado ellos cantaron. If at any point you have questions, let me know, right? All right, guys. Now remember that you have to take off the ending of the word, right? If you don't take off the ending of the word and you add, if you don't take off the ending of the verb and you add your endings to the infinitive, you're gonna end up with a different tense. You might end up with future tense, right? All right, who are my participators so far? Alejandro, Soraya, Gina, Kiara, Michaela. Just go back up here and see who has participated that I didn't note. Renita. Anybody else has sent an answer and I didn't hear your name? Your last name Granger. I'm not sure how to say his name. You can tell me in the chat. All right. Okay, let's just get through the ending of the exercise. I'm going to clear it with the writing is on the screen, right? Just cut this away and let's do the others. So we have right. So the point of this El Primero de Marzo is not that it's March 1st, but that it's a specific date, right? So once it's a specific date, and this thing happened in the past, right? We're not talking about a future event. Then we use preterite, right? So again, so tú naciste, right? You were born. El primero de marzo, tú naciste. Or naciste el primero de marzo, right? Look at another way to say your birth date. All right. And then here again, we have a date. So the year, right? In the past. So in 1984, in 1984, we have ella morir. So ella moriste, murió, right? Actually, this one is M-U-R-I-O accent. That is one exception we will have to talk about with the time change. So this is for IR verbs where the stem changes from O to U. Yes. So el gato rompo. So entonces, then el gato rompo, whatever. What did he break? Did he break the vase? Rompió, right? El vaso. All right. So that you're telling a story, then this happened, right? So it's an ER verb, so it takes the ER and IR endings. All right. Mi tía el otro día, the other day, my aunt got lost. She lost herself. All right. So mi tía se perdió, right? And desde el primer momento, from the first moment we met. Nosotros, you want to say from the first moment we met, we've been friends, right? Encontramos. All right, so check this against what you would have written, right? Remember, one of the objectives of this exercise is to really note these phrases. The second objective is to practice how we form the portraits, right? So we must have these phrases written down and the answers as well. All right, so people that I did not hear from, I am not clear on whether or not you're okay with forming the portrait, right? We're gonna go through and we're gonna work on these irregular verbs today, right? If we have time, there are more that we have to do, but we may have to do the rest next week, right? Do you all want to get started on one of them, or you want to take a break first? If you don't choose, I will choose that we start. All right, no problem. So we have more votes for start, so we'll start, right? Okay, let's do the first two. Ser and ir, because they are actually the same. They have the same conjugation, right? And there's no way around this. You will have to just memorize them. So ser is to be, right? And ir is to go. All right. Now, for the sake of clarity, I'm going to put in the subjects. But the subject again is not necessary if we're actually writing anything in Spanish, right? All right, so let's go with ser first. So yo fui, I was, right? Tú fuiste, you were. Él, ella, usted, fue, right? He, she, it, usted, was, or would, right? Usted is you formal, right? All right, if I come down here now, I'll write nosotros fuimos. right? We were. I'll change the slide for the others. I'm realizing the layout of this is a little scattered, right? And then the last one, ellos, ellas, ustedes, fueron, right? And this is they or you, ustedes, you plural, right? All right, any questions? Everybody understands? Is my handwriting clear? Is there anywhere that is unclear? So fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron, right? I was, you were, he, she, it was, or you were, we were, they were, you were, right? All right, so yo fui or just fui also means I went, right? I've lost my special, oh, here we go. All right. Right, so besides I was, it could also mean I went. So if we wanted to say ayer fui a la playa, we could be saying yesterday I was at the beach, yesterday I went to the beach. They both convey the same idea, right? You went, he, she, it went. Who stayed, you formal singular went, right? We went, they or you went. Right? So we don't usually in the past tense need to distinguish between whether it's the past tense of to be or to go. You get the same general idea from the predicate, right? Same conjugation for ser, same for ear. All right, so I'll ask again if you have any questions. Right. Estar, to be. All right, so let's try with just the conjugation so we can move a little faster. And if anyone is confused, we can put them back in, right? All right, so estuve, I was, right? Estuviste, you were. Él, ella, usted estuvo. He, she, it. Sorry, you formal were, was or were, depending, right? Estuvimos. Oh, why is this down here? I want the we forms, yo forms, the first person forms to line up. So estuvimos, right? Nothing for vosotros. Estuvieron. Right? They were, you formal, plural, were. All right, so you'll notice that the stem is sort of a drastic change here, E-S-T-U-V. But the endings themselves are not so different. E, I-S-T-E-O. So what's missing is the accent, right? It's just E. E-S-T-O. Imos, I-M-O-S. Ieron, I-E-R-O-N. All right, 1 minute. Yeah, we will do over Vera and Carrera There, the only difference is that, I mean, I had it just now with the list is the accents. Just like with is star, there's no accent on the first and third person. And I realized just now, I think I gave you an answer with an accent. So we got to go back and fix that. All right, let's clear this away. And we're going to Tintin to have. So the past tense would be I had, you had, he, she, it had. Okay, so the stem, so I wrote TUV next to Tinere there. That's the stem. That's the irregular part that changes, right? So it becomes tuve, tuviste. So you'll notice the endings are just like with istar, tuvo, right? Tuvimos, nosotros tuvimos, we had, nothing for vosotros. So ellos, ellas, ustedes tuvieron. They had or you had, right? Just to be clear, let me just put this at the bottom, tener, to have, right? 1 minute. Now the trick is gonna be with the for some people, right? We used to saying things like, but the yo form is the one that ends in the O. So como, bebo, miro, hablo, right? Actually, I'm saying it bad. Let me say it again. Como, bebo, miro, hablo, right? And now the O form is really the ALAO state form. It's not the yo form anymore. Right? So we have to remember that. Our brain is going to try to trick us until we sit down and we memorize this properly. Right, can we get to Aser? Everybody is done with Tener? Great. Let's do that. All right, so Aser, well, I have to make, to do. All right, so again, the stem is going to change, like with the others. Ise, I did. Hiciste, you made, you did. Now here it gets a little bit interesting. Instead of the C is going to be iso with a Z, right? Usted, iso. Now you can logically figure out why that is. This is just an aside. If I write it like this, how you pronounce R-I-C-O? We say Rico. So if I put H-I-C-O, I have to say eco. But I'm trying to preserve the soft C sound. So to get that soft sound, I have to put a Z, right? Because if I put a C in front of a O, I have to say co. Right? So iso with a Z. Hiciste, hizo, hicimos with a C again. Hicieron. Right. All right, 1 minute. All right, so the next. Right, so we have Dar, ver, decir, querer. Okay, we can get through those. Let me write them down before I forget. Dar, ver, decir, querer. Right? Okay. So let's do dar first. Dar to give. So we want to say I gave, you gave. All right. So we say di, I gave. Diste, you gave. Dio, he, she, it gave. Usted gave. Dimos, we gave. Disteis, dieron. Right? They gave or you plural gave. Now, what is the difference between this and irregular? No accent, right? That's the main difference. All right, now next week I want to do a quiz on these, right? So your job this week will be, of course, to revise and memorize the ones that you didn't know, okay? Right, can we do the next one? Anybody still writing? If you're still writing, let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna clear away the writing and okay, still writing, no problem. Go ahead. I'll write it smaller. So they for the next three, they will all fit together. One minute. All right, so let's clear away this board. Ver is very similar to dar. All right, so ver to see, I saw, you saw, he, she, it saw. This is the wrong pen, right? Okay, so ver to see, right? V, viste, view. Now you need to look back when we did the exercise just now. I think I put an accent on this O by mistake. Look, you can look back in your answers and correct it, right? There's no accent. This is what makes it irregular. Vimos, vieron. All right? Decir, to tell. Right? All right, so I told, dije. So the stem is D-I-J. All right, and we do this J gets an H sound, right? So dije, dijiste, dijo, dijimos, dijeron. Right? Now be careful here. It's not I-E-R-O-N, rather E-R-O-N, right? Let me write this over a little bit better. D-I-J-E-R-O-N. So dijeron, not dijeron, right? There's no extra I here like there were for the others, like with the vieron and so on, right? All right, last one on this list, querer. To wish or to want, right? Right, so the stem, Q-U-I-S. Quise, quisiste. So I wanted, you wanted. Quiso, he, she, it, or usted wants, wanted rather, right? Quisimos, quisieron, right? And again, be reminded, you must find the stem of the verb to add the ending. If you just add the ending to the infinitive, you're probably making the future or the future tense or just something that doesn't make sense in some cases, right? You must take off the ending to get the stem. Now, when you learned verbs the first time, probably your teacher explained to you that all verbs have an ending that's either AR or ER or IR, right? That is the ending. Like if you have a flower, there's the flower, and this is the stem, right? And this is the part you take off, the ending. And what you're left with is the stem, maybe roots. All right, any questions? Please say. Now, I didn't go over because I've done this till most of you are continuing from last term and you've heard this over and over, so I didn't say it again, but the present tense is the simple past tense. It's for actions that have been completed already in the past. Are there ever any verbs without an ending in Spanish? No. They either have an AR or an ER or an IR. Most of the time, we get the stem by taking off that ending. There are a few cases where we get the stem by going to the yo form. For example, to form subjunctive, right? We take the yo form and then we add our endings to that. That is our stem. But right now, as we do the preterite, we take off the ending and we add preterite endings. Or in this case, it's not about taking off the ending per se, but changing the stem for some of these, right? Right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then we're going to look at the comprehension that we didn't get to do, but you will do for homework. Right, we still have a number of irregular preterites to go through, but what you will see is that the irregular part is really the stem, and then the endings follow a pattern, right? So that shouldn't be too hard. Please revise what we did this week in terms of irregular preterites, especially so that next week we could do a quiz. It's not going to be, it's just it will probably be done anonymously, but we still want to be able to get the correct answers, right? It's not like I'll end up with a spreadsheet with your name and the score and then call your parents. It's not that kind of quiz. It's just a quiz to help us motivate us to revise and then to see how the class is doing with understanding the topic. Okay. Later on, we'll do the spreadsheet one. Just kidding. But later on, we'll do a proper Google form quiz. Now, let's talk about homework, right? Okay, so homework is this comprehension passage here. And it is about a trip to the zoo. Ayer fui al zoológico con mi familia. Fue un día muy divertido. Primero compramos las entradas y entramos al parque. All right, so your homework is going to be to answer these questions. Right? Now, I also think I'm kind of assuming this, I probably shouldn't assume it, so let me just say it explicitly, that I expect you also, as you do the homework, if you meet vocabulary that you don't know, to look it up. So by the end of the passage, you should know the vocabulary in here, right? If for some reason you didn't know it before, but I'm sure some of you will know it. For instance, you will probably know tigres y osos y leones y jirafas, right? Like lions and tigers and bears and giraffes, right? So any vocabulary you meet that you don't know, the nouns and expressions, please make a note of it. All right. These are the questions here. Also in the chat earlier, I sent you the link to it. I'm going to send you the link again. You'll have a week to complete it, right? It made it into 2 weeks. Like somebody has already submitted the answers. It's not hard. To the person who submitted the answers, you could confirm that, right? It wasn't hard. Okay, so it will come up, it will ask you your name, it will ask you the form that you're in. Each of the questions has the passage above it, and then there's the question, and you write your answer. The passage above it and the question. Passage, question. You will get back automatically the correct answers, and at a later time, I will go through individually and check answers, right? But you will get back the answers one time. Now the answers are supposed to be in Spanish, right? Please answer all questions in Spanish. You can do it more than once if for some reason you submitted it in English. I know you need to go back and do it in Spanish. You can do that. That's fine. You won't be able to change your answers, but you could do it a second time, especially people who might be native speakers of the language. Right. So this is it too. If you want to screenshot it. Sorry, we didn't get a chance to get it. We'll go through it at the beginning of class next week, right? But I have found that we do the best with comprehension if we know the vocabulary beforehand, right? So take some time and go through the vocabulary as you're doing it. And note if there's anything that you tried with the vocab, but it still doesn't make sense and you don't know what it means, please ask me when we come back, right? This is a nice little essay on our trip to the zoo, this little passage here. So you could save it. At some point, if you have to write about a trip to the zoo or a trip to anywhere, you could use this as a pattern. You'd change the details, of course. If it's a trip to the museum, you don't talk about seeing lions and tigers and bears, but the sequence of events, and some of the activities might be the same, right? All right. Any questions? Any concerns? So today we went over again how to form the preterite. We did some practice with it, and we looked at phrases that generally in Spanish mean that you have to use the preterite, right? We looked at irregular preterites as well. Next week, we start with correcting this passage, or at least going through it. We won't correct it because I want to give you 2 weeks to submit answers, right? So we'll start going through it, making sure we understand the vocabulary and noting the use of the preterite tense. Then we'll continue with quiz on the irregular tenses we did so far, more irregular preterite tense, and so on, right? Until we get to imperfect. All right, well, guys, if you have no more questions, you all are free to go ahead, right? If anybody is new and you need to go over how to get the homework via the website, you could stay and I'll show you that, right? So you go to iLoveLessons, and for Spanish, our password is SOFA. Sometimes this doesn't work on this computer for some reason. Right, and you will look for the recording, which will not be up yet because it wouldn't post it for about 24 hours, but you'll look for it. And just like how this one has Spanish homework link 1, link 2, or other handouts, right? You'll see a homework link and you'll click on that and it will take you to the homework assignment. Right, other than that, bye everybody.